Welcome to the Art Lady channel. Today's lesson is on these beautiful bedazzling butterflies. And we're just using simple materials. This is actually a paper plate. And then I picked up some of these gorgeous gemstone jewels. They came in actually a 3-pound bucket from NASCO. So if you're interested, that's where I found them. But you can use anything, glitter, buttons, things like that that you find at home, old jewelry that you don't need, something fancy in the middle. But we use the gemstones, actually in my lesson today, we use them for the head, the thorax, and the abdomen. And that just gives something a little special. And the background is a paper plate. You can see how I glue it on. But I'm going to show you now, step by step, how to make this gorgeous piece here. And in the end, if you like it, be sure to click the like button. Our first step is to sketch out our butterfly and then add some thick lines with some oil pastel. So I'm going to show you how we sketch this out. Now today we're using some paper plates, but if you don't have a paper plate, you can use a heavy piece of paper, oak tag, cereal boxes would work for this, that's fine. Anything pretty thick, because we're going to be gluing on some jewels and some glitters and things. So we need something to support those jewels. But the first step is to take, and on the paper plate, if you're using the paper plate, see where the groove is on the top of the paper plate? That's where we're going to go ahead and draw a circle here. And it's going to be as big as my fingernail here. So when I put my finger down, I can actually see right there. And that's going to be the head of the butterfly. Our next step is to take from the head, we're going to go up right to the edge of our paper plate and put a little circle on the end for the antenna of the butterfly. And I'm going to do that on both sides. I'm going to show you what the antenna looks like in a real butterfly. This is one that I put in some resin years ago, but if you look, this long piece right here is the antenna, and then it's got a little bit of a larger bump on the end of the antenna right there. Here's another one right here too. This one's a little bit smaller, but they do get, and this one I believe is the antenna here. This one right there. They do get a little bit thicker toward the end. So here's the other antenna right there. Now we're going to do the next sections of the butterfly, and that's going to be the thorax section. And on this one, you can see it a little bit. It's below the head, and it's a longer section here. And that's the thorax. So we come down, down, and I'm just going to meet together. There's the thorax. Now we're going to form the abdomen. There's the abdomen. And that's the last part of the butterfly, so come down. And this is at the very middle of our page and down. So they have a very elongated, thin body. Now we're going to do the wings next. And what I do is I start from the end of this thorax area, and I come diagonally down toward the edge of the page, or the edge of the plate. And I'm going to go diagonal on this side. And then below the head, right where it meets the thorax, I'm going to come up slightly, and then I'm just going to follow this curve of the paper plate. I'm going to do the same on this side, diagonally up, follow the curve of the paper plate. We're basing our butterfly off of real butterflies, but we're changing it a bit to make it a little bit more artistic. So it's going to be an imaginary butterfly based on real butterflies. From the end of the abdomen, I'm going to jump up a little bit, and then I'm going to do a diagonal line down and a diagonal line down on this side. I didn't quite come to the edge of my paper plate. I'm going to round this now to the edge, and I'm going to come off of this wing and round it to the edge. I want my butterfly to be as big as possible on this plate. Rounding on this side, bring it in and round it on this side. So now we have all the wings, we have the body parts. our antennas. Now we can add the veining on the inside of the butterfly. And what I like to do is for larger sections, then I divide my wings again. So I'm going to come in the middle of this thorax. I'm going to come out, around, and back to the body. This is just going to give a divider. Then I can have this as a different color. Now butterflies, they're the same on both sides. And where they repeat, the area that's the same is at the very, very center, right here. So this is the line of symmetry. So if I make one shape on this side, I want to make the other shape almost the exact same. So I'm going to come out, back around, and back. I'm going to try and make it identical. Mine's a little bit off, actually. If it's a little bit off here, this is how I'm going to fix this, and artists can do this as well. This one's too short, this one's too long. I'm just going to show you how to fix your mistakes. I can just extend it and make it the way I really want it. I ignore my mistake. That means I don't let that bother me. Later on, I can use this in my design. I could just fix it over here. So now I have two that are the same. So but just by ignoring the line, redrawing the line correctly, then you can adapt it to your picture. Now, I want to do two more down here just to divide this space. So I'm coming out diagonally, around, and back up. And I'm going to do the same on this side. Again, if I need to adjust them, I can adjust them. Now, I want to give some division on the ends on the here, because some butterflies do have a darker band on this end. So I'm just going to take from this wing to this side, just mimicking the curve. This almost looks like a moon shape here. And I'm going to do the same on this side. And then I want to leave a band on each edge here. So I'm going to come from this edge up to this edge. It almost gives a stripe to the edges. That way if I want to change up some color there, I can. Now I'm going to add the division spaces. And these you can add with a Sharpie or pencil, or you can just go right to oil pastel if you'd like. So I'm going to do some divisions here. I'm just going to divide this space up, and these are some of the veins that are inside the butterfly. So I come from this circle and I'm bringing them to the edge, just to the lines where they meet. So from this circle here, the center oval, and I'm just bringing them to the edges. This just divides up this space a bit. There's one down here. And then on the same on the bottom wing. Once you add a lot of these lines, it gets kind of confusing to see. So on the bottom, I'm going to divide here and here. I'm going to try and keep it the same. On this tip, then I'm going to go straight to the edge here. And then these can be sectioned off. Maybe a smaller section here. And then if you want to make it the exact same, I have one coming down here, so I'm going to match it to that side. So it's as symmetrical as you can get it. Here's another one here too. I didn't do that one. So check it out, see how yours is, and now we're ready to use some oil pastel. Now to finish the project, if you'd like to do an oil pastel resist, what I have my students do is I have them trace all of the lines with a black pastel, oil pastel. You can use a crayon as well if you push really hard on the crayon. And then we paint over this with some watercolors, and I just use pan watercolors, or I give my students some liquid watercolors, and I even like the liquid watercolors with a little bit of glitter in them. It gives a little bit of a shine to the paper. Actually, it's really quite beautiful with the liquid watercolors. But go ahead, if you want to follow this technique, and trace over all of your edges, all the black lines, and then I do not color in the centers black, because for my students we're going to be gluing on some dazzling jewels here, and if it's oily sometimes it doesn't stick very well. But you can trace the outer edges if you want to with the black oil pastel. And then I trace all of these areas really hard, pushing really hard with the oil pastel. I even add a little bit more black to the edge here, make a thick band back here on these side edges. But you want to make sure that it's not light like a crayon mark, but has some good coverage, and it ends up being pretty thick. That way, if you want to do different sections of this with different values of color, that would be quite lovely as well. So I'm going to go ahead and finish tracing over this, and then I'll show you how I add my paint. Once all the areas are traced over, all the lines, then I go ahead, and if I want to use yellow, that's the color I start off with first. So that way my water stays clean and the color stays nice and pure and bright. So if you're going to be using yellow, make sure you use your yellow first, and then go ahead and paint in your other colors. For this butterfly, I'm going to be doing some cool values. So it's going to be done in purples and teals, and I'm going to mix some of the different colors together. So I go ahead, start off with my sections, and I want to make it so that it is symmetrical, so it's the same on both sides. So I make sure that if I do purple on one side, I just continue with purple on the other. And if I'm going to do more purple, I do all the purple at the same time. So I'm going to go ahead anywhere that I want to have my purple value. I'm going to fill that in first, and that saves time. Artists always want to use their time wisely. And then I'm going to work up some other values, and I'm also going to make some colors myself. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how I'm going to layer some colors. So if you take a color, say you want to make a blue-violet color, I'm going to paint it violet first, and I'm going to do both sides so it's symmetrical. And then I'm going to add just a little bit of the teal. And then I'm going to spread that around so it forms a blue-violet color. I want this to be shades of teal and blue and violets. But if I did it all the same value or same color, it's not going to be as interesting as these new colors that I'm making. And maybe I can move this to these spots as well, because there's enough paint here to move it. And I'll move it to here as well. So I'm going to go ahead and finish filling in all of my values of my purples and blues, and I'll show you what it looks like when it's done. And here is the finished butterfly, and I used a variety of colors to finish it. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut it out, and then we're going to embellish the center here with some jewels, and it will be a beautiful bedazzling butterfly. So I'm going to finish cutting this out, and then I'll show you what it looks like. Now I'm going to split a little bit of the wing just so I can get some more curl on this on both sides. So I can curl it up a little bit, because when I mount it onto a piece of colored paper, I want the wings to stick up a little bit here. So I'm just going to apply a little bit of glue to the back, and then I'm going to do some of these jewels. And I'm going to put one of these sparkly jewels on the head, and then this one I'm going to use for the thorax, and then I'm going to use, I think I'll just use the black one for the abdomen, and that will be the finishing touches of the beautiful bedazzling butterfly. And I hope you enjoy this lesson, and let me know in the comments how yours came out. And if you like the lesson, be sure to click the like button